and welcome to Thriver TV, the place to break free with quantum tools and understandings. So earlier on this week, I did the episode about forgiving ourselves, and I talked about Mercy and how she always needed to be with a man to feel like she had an identity, and how she'd not yet learned how to be a source to herself. The truth is, Mercy was me. Mercy was so many of us. And this episode is not just for women, it's for all of us, because regardless of our gender, age, sexual orientation, or any classification at all, we may not have been a whole source to ourselves before and during narcissistic abuse. And in today's Thriver TV show, I'm going to share with you information about all of this and how I did become a source to myself, how that happened. And it's my deepest wish that if you're struggling with this, that there's going to be some powerful takeaways that can help you break through into becoming your whole source also. So let's start off by what it feels like when we're not a source to ourselves. And please know, Tiggy's hair, in the contextual, oh gosh, you need a brush. In the contextual field of duality, it isn't until we start shifting out of an experience that we can even understand what that experience was. In short, like so many of us, I had no idea whatsoever that I wasn't a source to myself when I wasn't. Because I was surviving in life as my normal, just doing my thing. Like in times of anxiety and depression, medicating myself with distractions and activities. A bit like getting distracted with Tiggy's hair now. And I just thought that distractions and activities was just the healthiest choice that people could do. You know, people say, well, you know, to stop feeling that, go distract yourself with something positive. And for all of it, it's only when the unconscious becomes conscious that we can start to understand that we're suffering from something. And generally that deficit or gap that we're suffering, it's just got to be so big and so impactful that life can no longer go on as normal to get our attention. And that's exactly the gift of narcissistic abuse. The trauma is so big that it well and truly has our attention. And with that comes the choices. Are we going to awaken and take radical 100% responsibility to say, there's a reason that this has happened in my life, and what is it that I can learn from this and heal myself from? Or we keep looking outwards at the narcissist and we never get to achieve any of this. I talk about not being a source to ourselves a lot because this, in a nutshell, is what makes us susceptible to narcissists. And it was the thing that I needed to heal hugely within myself. When we aren't whole, we unconsciously seek it. And if we're not creating it for ourselves, we seek it from others. The problem being on the quantum level of life, so within, so without, if we're not whole, then we can only seek and generate relationships with people who will grant us more of that, more fractures and evidence of us not being whole. I speak about these essential 4 inner commodities that allow us to be a source to self all the time. Love, approval, security, and survival. Let's start with love. If we've been brought up with a critical parent voice, where we felt judged, not good enough, defective, untrustworthy, bad, selfish, or whatever it is, or if we were abandoned by someone who was unavailable to love us, either emotionally or literally, as children, we didn't feel lovable as ourselves, and therefore we don't love ourselves as adults. We still have that critical inner parent voice going on within us. Our self-talk is full of recriminations, conditional love, and even self-loathing. Therefore, if someone comes along and starts telling us lovely things about ourselves, then we're going to drink from their well like a parched person in a desert. Interestingly enough, as a side note, what I later discovered is if true selves said something lovely, I couldn't accept it. But if false selves were putting on the charm to love bomb me and get what they wanted from me, I bought the scam, hook, line, and sinker, not knowing that unconsciously we're a match which went like this. I think bad about myself, therefore I can accept bad people to treat me exactly the same. And that was unconscious, but that's what was going on. And those were the ones that were going to get through our relationship filter, the people that matched the composition of our inner being. So what are the feelings of not loving ourselves? It feels like this: an emptiness, a disconnection, a missing out, feeling alone and lonely, not feeling whole, and feeling like our greatest fear could happen, that we could die without being loved by someone for real, and that our whole life could end up being a failure if we don't achieve that. And that's how I felt, totally. I didn't realize back then that the only person who ever needed to love me was me, and then the rest of life and others would organically follow. I used to seek other people to heal this stuff, to try to get love and feel lovable, whereas we can only be love and lovable. How I healed this essential source of self-commodity was to target the traumas in my body about feeling bad, unlovable, defective, not worth loving, etc. And I found, as I released these one by one and brought Source's love in with Quantum Freedom Healing to replace the traumas, I filled with love and experienced self-love. No longer did the emptiness exist or the feeling that love was missing. No longer was I approaching love like a starving person willing to accept any version so that I didn't go without. And I promise you, neither will you. The next commodity is self-worth. And this follows on from a lack of self-love. When we don't love ourselves, we're not a capable self to ourselves. Emotionally, we have fractures inside where we were never able to grow our resilience or our ability to endure disappointments or have the capacity to self-soothe effectively. We don't trust our senses, our own intuition. We don't know ourselves as a connected source to all that is and how capable we really are. We feel small, dependent, reliant, and anxious and panicked when things go wrong. Rather than knowing we have control of ourselves and can be our own quantum creator from a solid inner landscape, we try to control things outside of ourselves, discover it's fruitless, and then get more out of control on the inside. As the panic escalates, we may hand power over trying to get other people to look after us and then get ourselves hurt even more. Our choice of addictions and bad relationships to try to self-medicate the anxiety and depression we feel strip our self-worth more and more and more. We don't feel blessed by life. And we feel like things such as abundance, love, and joy will never be granted to us, and we must be unworthy of these things. So when a narcissist turns up as the consummated actor of love, abundance, and joy in spades, that is the parade we want to join. And we do, because we think finally someone is going to provide us a life of worth that will take away all the pain we feel inside of not feeling worthy. This was my life and my story. I didn't have self-love. And of course, as a result, I didn't have self-worth. How did I heal this? I went to all the trauma of believing I'd lost my life as a result of losing everything that I thought I had with the narcissist, and filled where those traumas had been with Source, with Quantum Freedom Healing. A lot of it was Module 2 work in NARP. And as I filled with life force, I became expanded into life and felt worthy of it. And then started generating all of that for real on my own, directly connected to the source of life. And every time I came across a block in my expansion, a limiting belief, a comfort zone, please know comfort zones are never comfortable. They're very uncomfortable because our soul wants to expand past that. So in those, I blew them out of my body with Quantum Freedom Healing, and I brought in more Source and just kept expanding, growing, and experiencing more and more worthiness and courage and confidence, and consequently more and more of life. And by doing so, you will too. So let's look at the next commodity necessary to be a source to yourself: security. And if we don't have self-love and self-worth, and we're making decisions in our life that are a match for a deficient self-love and self-worth, then our life will feel precarious. And it's likely that we've lost security and suffered disappointments along the way. It's likely that we're still carrying limiting beliefs from our ancestors and family, such as, I can't survive without a man if we're female. Life is tough. Things always go wrong. You have to always have a plan because something does go wrong. And maybe our money beliefs are skewy, such as money is the root of all evil. You can't be a good person and have success and wealth, or whatever I'm going to make, somebody's going to take it away from me. And maybe you were brought up with a poverty consciousness or a dependent consciousness, such as your mother always needing a man or social security to survive, or your father as well, needing social security to survive. And maybe because we were always protected by a parent that took over all of the security stuff for us, that we never knew what it was to create and generate our own financial security. We were never allowed to grow up into that power. Self-wholeness and being a source to ourselves is holistic. If one of the commodities are out of whack, the others will suffer too. And if you haven't as yet got self-love and self-worth, you won't have the ability generally to be a whole source of self-security. And this is where people go terribly wrong with their healing. And I used to think this too, thinking that sorting their self-security is going to give them self-love and self-worth. But I promise you that is not the truth. That is so wrong town. It's like trying to put a cart in front of a horse. The foundations are self-love and self-worth first, and then self-security can come. And of course you need to physically survive, and once that's taken care of, even if in minimalistic ways, even if you need help from others, then make sure self-love and self-worth become your most important missions. And ironically, that's only possible when you stop thinking that your identity is what you have materially. It isn't. It's who you're being emotionally. How I healed my self-security issues were to heal my limiting beliefs about needing a man to generate security. and that every time I would get security, I'd be punished and life would take it away, because that had happened so many times. And I started creating the knowing by clearing all resistance of being a self-source of security in the NARP goal setting work, that I got to the goals of life and source having my back, knowing that, and wanting and knowing that life and source wanted for me what I wanted for me, and that I'm flourished and nourished, and that abundance is divine, and that I can have love and abundance simultaneously. And cleaning up so many other double binds I had in beliefs that meant that I could make money, but I could never have a relationship at the same time, or I could have a relationship, but I could never have my own financial security. All that stuff. A lot of women have it. So all I had to do was access the beliefs, the painful feelings and dense energy in my body about this. And after working on self-love and self-worth, that's what happened. I really, really worked on the blocks regarding being a security source to myself. And by doing so, they all shifted, they all dissolved away. And then I found that I was working about a quarter as hard as what I used to produce 3 times the results, and that it stayed in my life. It didn't keep falling over and sabotaging. Okay, so the last essential self-source commodity, survival. And arguably this is the one that gets us to hand power over the most. All 4 were massive for me and massive for lots of people in the community. And this one especially so. It's this feeling, I'm not safe in life. I don't like this planet. I don't want to be here. And I've done a Thriver TV episode on this not so long ago. This is the ultimate disconnection from ourself, life, and others. It's called fear. It's called separation. Narcissists are riddled with fear. They're living the ultimate separation. They've got that much of it going on that they created a false self to survive. If we have the terror of not being able to survive the human experience or not wanting to be here, we are a match for the dark dwellers, narcissists, period. Yet, something incredible happens when we work on self-love, self-worth, and self-security deep within our inner being. When we do the reprogramming, we start to know that we can and will survive. We start to enjoy how and what we can create, consciously this time, instead of all the unconscious painful things that have been happening to us. We start to enjoy what life starts to delivering. So within, so without. We start getting the physical proof very, very quickly. It's the real life evidence of our changing inner landscape. And we start to love life in this body right here, right now. And as a result of getting our relationship right with ourselves, we start getting our relationship right on a true self level, which grants us infinite inner wisdom, which is the byproduct of wholeness. We know that we're a spiritual being having a physical experience, and that we are at the deepest core of our energetic true being. We are eternal and immortal and infinite. We can never be destroyed, no matter what happens to our physical being. And this takes all of the sting out of it. We know our survival is guaranteed regardless of what happens to us. We know we are loved and whole no matter what happens to us, because we are matter. And on the quantum level, we are even beyond matter. We're the force that created matter. At this level, how I healed this 4th and final self-source commodity was to target in my body the remaining traumas of fearing life and not wanting to be here, and to set up goal-setting modules of loving being in life being home here, right now, being safe here. And I worked really hard to get this right because I was born terrified of being in this life, on this planet. I didn't want to be here. So I know so many of you have gone through that who've been with narcissists. And we've got to do a lot of work on that, on our inner belief systems to heal that. And so can you. You can do that. And then, like me, truly, you will love life and being here in this body right here, right now. So that's being a source to self. So I so hope that this has helped and this has really expanded you today. And if it resonates with you and you go, oh my God, that is so the stuff I need to heal, I would love to help you do that so that you can heal for real from toxic relationships and narcissistic abuse and really get on the trajectory of your true life. So to help me help you do that, you can sign up to my free 16-day recovery course, which includes an invitation to a free healing workshop, a set of ebooks, and so much more. And to access these, just click the link at the top right of this video. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you like and subscribe so you get notified as soon as each new video is released. So until the next one, keep smiling, keep healing, and keep thriving because there's nothing else to do. Lots of love. Bye-bye.